Okay, so like we did last time, we'll do a short prayer, then get started. Om yo brahmanam vidadhati purvam yo ve vedamscha prahinoti tasmai tamhadevam atmabuddhi prakasham mumukturvai sharanamaham prapadye asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwarah, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha, Gurave Sarvalokanam, Bhishaje Bhavaroginam, Nidhaye Sarvavidyanam, Sri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Okay. So I hope all those who are present here were also part of the call last week. So there is no, hopefully there is no newcomer. I'll request one of you to volunteer to give a short summary, maybe in 3-4 sentences, as to what we learned last week. That will set the context for proceeding further. So I know many of you took notes. It will probably be a useful exercise to go through the notes or from your memory and summarize in 3-4 sentences what you learned. We'll just have 1 or 2 people do it, and then we can continue with today's content. Who wants to volunteer? No one seems to be.
No, because we did not know that this was included. I mean, one has to also one can talk something, but it has to be coherent. And
No, that's fine.
Coherency,
See, I'm just trying
to. One has to also prepare.
I'm just trying to pick your memory. You can, maybe you have the notes in front of you. You can just say in 3-4 sentences what you covered.
Basically, you explain the basic structure of Vedic Sanatana Dharma. So
okay. So yeah,
and the basic our scriptures, the Prasthana Trayi that you talked about.
Okay.
And that our the 5 Panchakoshas, the different Panchakoshas that Manomaya, Vijnanamaya.
Yeah.
And then you talked about Sthula Sharira and Karana Sharira and Sukshma Sharira.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So Ektaji, you raised your hand.
And then you naturally you talked about the 3 stages: Jagrata, Stuptavastha, and Swapnavastha.
Yeah. Right.
That is what. Yeah.
Sure. So Ektaji, your views.
Yeah. So you explained about first of all there are 4 sections of Vedas, like Samhita, Brahmana, Sakha, Aranyaka, and then Upanishada. So you are explaining Upanishad to us, and it includes Vedanta, which has again 3 sections: Advaita, Dvaita, and Vishishta Advaita.
Yeah, 1 second. So Upanishad and Vedanta are synonymous. So it is not like Upanishad contains Vedanta. Upanishad is the same as Vedanta. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
And other 3 were known as also Karma Kanda, you said.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
And yeah, then you started Advaita philosophy, which includes the Panchakosha, that includes Annamaya, Pranmaya, Manomaya, Vijnanmaya, Anandmaya Kosha and all.
Okay.
And then we started Manomaya and Vijnanmaya Kosha, which includes Manas, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara, which is called mind. And then it has again 5. We have 5 Gnanendriya and 5 Karmendriya we talked about.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about the 3 types of state, that is Jagrata Avastha, Swapna Avastha, and Sushupti Avastha.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And I think one more hand went up, Ketki ji, I think.
Yeah, actually, now everything has been told already. So I just wanted to add one more thing to this is that we are basically focusing on Advaita Vedanta in this entire session.
Correct. Okay.
That's all I
Right.
wanted to clear.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. So I did talk about the 6 Astika Darshanas, and I mentioned Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa. So what I missed out to mention was that the Vedanta is nothing but Uttara Mimamsa. So Uttara Mimamsa and Vedanta are synonymous, and it is also called Upanishads, Vedanta, Jnanakanda. So all these are synonymous. Uttara Mimamsa is basically another way of saying Vedanta. Okay, so if you go through the list of the 6 Astika Darshanas, you may be wondering, we talked about Uttara Mimamsa, but there is no mention of Vedanta. So Vedanta and Uttara Mimamsa are one and the same. Okay, right. So last class we stopped at Karana Sharira, and then from the Karana Sharira we also discussed about the deep sleep state, Sushupti Avastha. Okay, now we talked about 3 Shariras: Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and Karana Sharira. Now it is important to know that essentially speaking, all the 3 Shariras are made up of dead matter. When I say dead matter, it means the property of life or the property of consciousness is not an inherent property of the body. Okay, so I also said in the very beginning that matter and consciousness, these two are two entities, and all of us are a mix of both. Okay, and till now we have not talked about consciousness at all, and we will slowly introduce the concept of consciousness step by step. Okay, but before that, let us understand this whole body thing a little more in detail. That will help you to get a broader picture. Okay, I can actually go to consciousness without actually going to all these matter and details of matter, but I want to do it because it gives you a complete total picture. So let's look at what this matter is all about. Okay, now our Upanishads and Vedas say that matter at the most fundamental level is called Prakriti. Okay, it is called Prakriti, and in some context it is also called Pradhanam. Okay, and that is a source. In science we have this Einstein's equation, E is equal to mc square, where we say that mass and energy are equivalent of each other. So mass can become energy and energy can become mass. That is the modern science view. Okay, and we go one step further and say that even energy is not really fundamental, because you have different forms of energy, and one form of energy can transform to another form of energy. Yeah, so like we all know that you have electric motor where electrical energy is transformed into mechanical energy, or you have a generator and alternator where mechanical or thermal energy is converted to electrical energy. So energy itself comes in many forms, and one form of energy can get converted to another form of energy. So it tells us that energy, really speaking, is not the ultimate fundamental. So our Vedas say that there is something called Prakriti, which is the primordial or most fundamental form of matter, and all forms of matter emerge from Prakriti. Okay, this is one thing to be noted and understood and remembered. Okay, now the various philosophies talk about how matter evolves from Prakriti, and there are different theories. I'm not going to go into all those theories, but I'll give you one important sequence which is described in the Upanishads. Okay, in the Upanishads, we get a certain sequence of creation. So the first thing that comes out of Prakriti is Akasha or space. Okay, so in creation, space is the first step. And from Akasha, the air principle, Vayu principle comes. And then from Vayu, the fire principle comes, Agni. And then from Agni, the water principle comes. Then from water, earth comes. And then from the earth, you have plants, and from the plant, you get food. And then from the food, the other living beings are able to, nourish themselves and, survive. So this is one sequence. Okay, this is one sequence. We will add a lot of other details as we go along, but this is one primary sequence that you have to remember. So Akasha, Akashad Vayu, Vayor Agnihi, Agner Apaha, Apaha Jalam, then Jalat Prithvi. Okay, this is the sequence. And the Sharirams that we talk about, they are all a mix of all the 5 elements. So at a high level, all the 5 elements go to make the Shariram. Okay. Now, all these 5 elements, let us call them Panchabhuta. Okay. All these Panchabhutas, when they are created, they are originally created in what is called a Sukshma form. It's the Sukshma element, Sukshma Bhutam that gets created. Okay. Just like you have a Sukshma Shariram and a Sthula Shariram, the Bhutas also have a Sukshma Bhutam and a Sthula Bhutam. Now, the primary raw material for creation is the Sukshma Bhutam. So there is a Sukshma Akasha, there is a Sukshma Vayu, there is a Sukshma Agni, and so on. Okay. And how do the Sthula Bhutas come from the Sukshma Bhutas? That process is called Panchikaranam. Okay, so I'm now going to explain what is Panchikaranam. It may sound a little complicated, but it is not so difficult. It's just a matter of organizing your thoughts in a certain way, and then you understand what happens. Basically, the Panchikaranam is a process of making a mixture or an alloy of all the 5 bhutas. So it's basically an alloying process, but that alloying happens in a particular format or a particular configuration, you can say. So let us take Sthula Akasha first. The Sthula Akasha consists of 50% Sukshma Akasha and 1/8 of the other 4 Sukshma elements. Okay, so imagine one unit. You can draw one rectangle and divide it into half. Okay, so let us say you have 5 rectangles, each rectangle representing one element. Okay, so the Akasha rectangle you divide into 2, and 1/2 you keep it as it is. The other half you divide into 4 further parts, and each part gets one portion of that other 4 Sukshma elements. Okay, so the Sthula Akasha has 50% Sukshma Akasha, then 12.5% Sukshma Vayu, 12.5% Sukshma Agni, 12.5% Sukshma Jalam, and 12.5% Sukshma Prithvi. This is Sthula Akasha. Similarly, you have one rectangle for next Vayu. 50% remains Sukshma Vayu. Then 12.5% of Akasha, Agni, Jalam, and Prithvi, and so on. So this mixing process is called Panchikaranam, because you basically have 5 parts One part is dominant, which is 50%. The other 4 parts are the minor or the less dominant elements. This is the principle in which the Sthula Bhutam evolves from the Sukshma Bhutam. So the Sthula Bhutams are essentially a mix of the 5 Sukshma Bhutams. Okay, I'll pause here. If there are any questions, any confusions, we can talk. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand. If everybody understood, then it's fine. We'll move on. Yeah.
So this is Deepa here.
Yeah.
If I understood you right, please correct me. Let's take an example of Akasha Bhuta. So that is made up of 50% of Akasha or Sukshma, and the rest is of the other Vayu, fire and all.
Correct.
Right?
Sthula.
Correct.
Sthula. Okay. So it means that each 5 elements are made up of rest 4.
Each 5 Sthula element. So let us be very careful with the word. Yeah, there is a Sukshma side and there's a Sthula side. And every Sthula element is made up of all the 5 Sukshma components. Okay. So it is like, you have ornaments made of bangle. Ornaments made of gold. And gold, pure gold, you cannot use. For ornament, you need to add a little bit of copper. And the proportion of copper will vary. Yeah, you have 22 karat and you have 20 karat, 18 karat. For instance, in Germany, you don't get 18 or 22, you get only 14 karat. Yeah. So that 14 is nothing but the weight is divided into 24 parts and 14 parts of gold and remaining how much is 10 parts of copper. That is the alloying that happens. Yeah. So this is one example. So just like that, the Sukshma Bhutams cannot perform all the functions. So for performing some functions, the Sthula Bhutams are required. So that is the proportion in which the the Sthula Bhutams come from the Sukshma Bhutam. This was just an example.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. No other questions? Yeah, Shruti.
Yes. So this you had mentioned one word in the beginning. It was Prakriti, and you said or Pradhanam.
Pradhanam.
Okay, or Pradhanam. Okay.
Yeah, there are also other words like Maya and all that, but we will not come to that now.
Okay.
There are multiple words. So Prakriti, Pradhanam, I mentioned 2 because Prakriti is what we generally use in Vedanta.
Yeah.
And Pradhanam actually comes from the Sankhya philosophy. But we tend to use it. We, even though we don't agree with everything that Sankhya or Yoga says, we borrow a lot of their concepts to use in our framework.
Okay. Sankhya Prakriti. Okay.
Right. Sankhya uses the word Pradhanam more often. They also use Prakriti, but they use the word Pradhanam more often than we do.
Okay.
Okay. Right. So that is one part of the matter thing. So you have a Sthula elements which come from the Sukshma elements. Then this Prakriti or Pradhanam also has what is called 3 gunas. Okay, there is a Sattva guna, there is a Rajo guna, there is a Tamo guna. And so because all the bhutas are products of Maya or Prakriti, the bhutas also have the Sattva, Rajas, Tamo gunas. Okay, and the proportion of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas can vary. So we will come to that much later, but now what you have to remember is everything that comes with material basis has the 3 gunas. All of them have 3 gunas. Okay. Now that is another I'll give you 3 or 4 such packages of information, and then we'll bring all of them together to build our foundation to the next level.
Sir, can you please repeat once again the 3 gunas?
Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Sattva, Sattva, Sattva.
Rajas and Tamas.
Rajas, Rajas, we call that Rajo Guna also. and then tamas or tamoguna, Tamo or Tamas.
Okay.
Okay. Now, let us understand what these three gunas are responsible for, and then we will, use that information later. So, sattva guna basically is responsible for all mental activities. So, anything to do with thought process, anything to do with your mind, emotions, analysis, all the mental functions are governed by the sattva guna. Okay, so that is the responsibility of sattva guna. Then there is rajoguna. Rajoguna is responsible for all physical activities. All physical activities are governed by rajoguna. Okay, so for instance, you have the ability to talk or ability to run, walk, lift weights. All those things are actions with the help of rajoguna. And tamoguna is essentially the absence of both. Tamoguna, you can say it's a positive entity, it's a negative entity. You can look at it both ways. Yeah. So tamoguna essentially is absence of sattva and rajas, and it manifests itself in the form of laziness, tiredness, sleep, ignorance. These are all the manifestations of tamoguna. Okay. So you keep that aside. We will use it from time to time. These informations we will use it in different contexts. Yeah, I'm just giving you some building blocks. Okay. Now let us come to the connection between the panchabhutas and our indriyas, especially the jnanendriyas. We will deal with jnanendriyas first, then we will come to karmendriyas later. Okay. So the akasha is supposed to have the property of a sound. So akasha is responsible for the property of sound. This goes actually against what we learnt in our physics in school science, where we say that sound waves travel in air. So we somehow associate sound wave to air. But the Shastras say that the sound is essentially a property of space. Okay, so we will keep it there. We will not confuse science and Shastra. We are now dealing with Shastra, so we will go purely with Shastra, what Shastra says. Shastra says sound is a property of space. Then touch. Touch is a property of air. Okay, so when I say touch is a property of air, it is primarily a property of air. Touch is primarily a property of air. Then shape, or what we call in Sanskrit rupam. Rupam is a property of fire. Okay, rupam is a property of fire, and rupam normally we associate with color. Okay, normally we associate rupam with color. So when I say rupam, you have to somehow program yourself to think of color and not of shape, because shape you can even have shape without association with Agni. Okay, so color is what we associate with Agni. Then taste is a property of jalam, water, and this also flies against what we have learned in physics, which says water is a colorless, odorless, tasteless liquid. Yeah, that is not something that agrees with the Vedic or Shastric interpretation, because water, all said and done, has a unique taste of its own. Yeah, so taste is associated with water. And finally, smell. Smell is associated with Prithvi. Okay, so smell is a primary property of Prithvi. Okay, now we also have this hierarchy that Akasha comes from Akasha comes from Maya, then Vayu comes from Akasha, then Agni comes from Vayu, and that hierarchy we have. So even the properties follow the same hierarchy. Okay, now Akasha has only sound as its property. Akasha only has sound. It does not have touch, it does not have color, it does not have taste, it does not have shape or a smell. Okay, it does not have smell. Whereas Vayu, even though touch is the primary property of Vayu, it inherits the sound property from Akasha. So Vayu actually has two properties. It has touch as its primary and sound as an inherited property. And then when we come to Agni, Agni has three properties. It has color as its inherent original property, and it gets touch and sound as the inherited property, one inherited from Akasha, one inherited from Vayu. Okay, and you can actually build the sequence on your own, but for completion's sake I will do it myself. Yeah, so next comes water, Jalam. So Jalam has four properties: the property of taste being the primary property, and the property of a sound, touch, and color. Color means what? Some visual visual property. You can see water, right? Whereas you cannot see Akasha, you cannot see Vayu, but you can see Jalam. So to that extent it has some color. Okay, so all those are inherited properties. And finally earth. The earth has smell as its original property, but it inherits sound, touch, color, and smell from the other four elements because it is the ultimate product. Okay, that's why when it rains, for instance, when it rains, the smell comes. The smell that comes during rain comes from the earth. In my mother tongue is Tamil, and we have a term called man vasanai. Man means prithvi, and vasanai is smell. And that man vasanai is the term we use to talk about the smell that comes when it starts raining. Yeah. Similarly, let's talk about taste. We said water has the property of taste. That means fire, air, and space do not have taste. Yeah, and that can be experienced when you drink something extremely hot. When you drink something extremely hot, your tongue gets burnt, but you don't experience any taste. That's because fire, which causes the heat, it doesn't have a taste, it can only burn. Yeah, so you can infer all these things from this sequence. Okay, so I talked about the properties of the five bhutas. Now let us come to the jnanendriyas. The ear is responsible for hearing, which is the reception of sound. So the ear and Akasha are connected. Okay, so we will talk about the connection more in elaborate details at a later point, but for today you just understand and note down that the ear and the Akasha are connected. Then the skin is responsible for touch. So the skin and air are connected. Then the tongue is responsible for taste. The taste comes from water. So the tongue is connected to water as far as the jnanendriya part is concerned. So jnanendriya tongue is connected to water. Then you have the eyes. The eyes perceive color, and eyes are connected to Agni because the color comes from Agni. Okay, and finally the nose, responsible for smell. Smell comes from earth, so the nose and the earth are connected. Okay, this is the connection between the elements and the indriyas. Okay, and all these properties of perception come from the respective tattva gunas of the elements. So the jnanendriyas derive their power from the sattva guna of the respective elements. So that is a mapping. So even though there is a mapping between ear and space, it is the mapping between ear and the sattva guna of space. This mapping with skin and air is between the skin and the sattva guna of air, and so on. Okay, so the jnanendriyas are all driven by sattva guna. Okay, then the karmendriyas and the prana are driven by the rajoguna. It is basically the prana which derive the rajoguna, and then the prana in turn activate the karmendriyas. Okay, so all the rajoguna, and in the case of prana, we don't talk about the individual elements separately. All the 5 rajogunas of all the 5 elements combine to produce 5 pranas. You know, there are 5 pranas, and all the 5 elements have some role in all the 5 pranas. So we don't really have a deeper analysis of which prana has which element and so on. So that is not important. So the 5 indriyas, the 5 panchabhutas, they contribute their rajoguna to the prana, and that creates a panchaprana, and the pranas in turn activate the karmendriyas, the hand, the leg, and the talking tongue, and so on. Yeah, so that is the connection between the prana and the rajoguna of the elements. Again, remember, we are talking about the sukshma elements here. We are talking about the sukshma elements, their rajoguna contributing to prana and karmendriya. Then finally comes the tamoguna and the sthula elements. Now we talk about the sthula elements. So, you know, last week we talked about the sthula shariram and the sukshma shariram. So the sthula shariram is made of the sthula elements, and the sukshma shariram is made of the sukshma elements. Okay, so the sthula shariram has the 5 sthula elements, and it inherits the tamoguna of the elements. So the body by itself is tamoguna dominant. You also have this Newton's law of first law. A body remains in its state of rest or uniform motion until it is impelled by some external force. That is recognized by our shastras, and it says the body inherently is dominated by tamoguna. Left to itself, the body will not do anything. It is the rajoguna of the prana that makes the body come to action. Okay, so inherently speaking, the body does not have a tendency to act. It is dominated by tamoguna. Okay, so this much has to be understood. Okay, I'll make a pause here. If anyone has any questions, doubts, we can sort it out. Okay, no questions? Okay, yes.
No questions. Just can you repeat it once again? Pancha Mahabhuta with Sattva Guna and then Sukshma Guna. Can you just repeat that chain again?
I'll have to
No,
repeat the
just-
whole 15 minutes.
No. Just the last connection that you made.
Okay,
Just make
so
the last
the
connection. How is
pancha
it
sthula
functioning?
bhutas,
Hmm.
the pancha sthula bhutas, they constitute the sthula shariram, or the subtle, the gross body,
Okay.
and the gross body derives its tamoguna from the elements.
From the elements. Okay.
Yeah, Raniji, you wanted some question?
Yes, Vasudevanji. The sequence in the beginning you told,
Hmm.
first Akasha, And then Agni, then
No.
Vayu.
Akasha, then Vayu. Air.
Vayu. Okay. Yeah.
Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, and Prithvi.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Right. So all questions over. We can proceed to the next. Yeah. Right. Now let us come to how this inherently dead matter becomes lively or living, or how does it come to life? How does it get consciousness? Okay, so we will now start talking about consciousness and also the interaction between matter and consciousness and eventually their relationship. Okay, now before I even go to talk about consciousness in detail, I want you to note down these 5 cardinal principles. These principles we will keep visiting again and again during the course. So I want you all to write it down, remember, and if possible even memorize. It's very useful. So I'll do some dictation. You please note it down, whether you have a piece of paper or whether you're doing it on your laptop. I leave it to you. But it's important that you note down these 5 cardinal principles. Okay. So the first one goes like this. Consciousness is not a part, product, or property of matter / body. I'm using matter and body synonymously, but depending on the context when we talk, matter or body will be useful. So first point, consciousness is not a part, product, or property of matter / body. Okay, I repeat again, or can we go to the next? Yes, Raniji, your hand is still up. Maybe it should go down if you don't have a question. Yeah, right. So I take it that everybody is fine. We'll go to the second point. Consciousness is an independent entity. Consciousness is an independent entity that pervades and enlivens matter / body. Consciousness is an independent entity that pervades and enlivens matter / body. Okay. Can we go to the third? Yeah. Consciousness is not limited by the boundaries of the body / matter. Consciousness is not limited by the boundary or boundaries of matter or body. Okay. Then, fourth point, consciousness continues to exist. Consciousness continues to exist after the fall of the body / destruction of matter. Consciousness continues to exist even after the fall of the body / destruction of matter. That is the fourth point. Then the fifth point, okay, this is a little long. It may sound a little complicated, but please follow carefully. Yeah, that consciousness, yeah, that consciousness which continues to exist, after the fall of the body or after the destruction of matter. Yeah, after the fall of the body or after the destruction of matter, comma, is not perceptible, comma, primarily because of the absence of a medium, through which it can manifest itself, slash interact. Yeah, manifesting itself and interaction, I'm using in the same sense. Yeah, so the last point is a little long, but that's equally important. So I'll request one volunteer to read out one sentence, one after the other, so that I know that all of you got it right. So who's going to read point number 1?
Consciousness is not a part of product or property, matter or body.
Consciousness is not a part, comma, product, comma, property. It's all one. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it is neither a part, nor a product, nor a property. That's what I mean.
Okay. Matter or body is the same. Matter or body.
Matter or body,
Yeah.
I'm using synonymously. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm saying it is neither a part of matter, nor a product of matter, nor a property of matter.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So Shruti ji, you wanted to do second, no?
Yes, sir. Consciousness is an independent entity that pervades and enlivens matter or body.
Yeah, pervades. Yeah,
Pervades.
Pervades. Yeah.
Okay, pervades. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, pervades. Okay, who's going to go with third point?
Sir, if I may,
Yeah,
consciousness is not limited by boundaries of body/matter.
very good. Thank you. Fourth one. Yeah, Shubhu Frey. Yeah,
Consciousness continues to exist after the fall of the body or the destruction of matter.
yeah. Okay. Then final point. Fifth. Ekta ji.
That consciousness which continues to exist after the fall of the body is not perceptible primarily because of the absence of a medium through which it can manifest itself or interact.
Okay, great. So all of you got all the 5 points right. Thank you. Congratulations. So we will use these, shall we say, axioms going forward. You can put your hand down, ma'am, Ekta ji. Yeah. So yeah, we'll keep using these as and when we get a occasion to use it. Shubhu, yes, your question.
Just a question. Consciousness is actually, according to my interpretation, never perceptible, isn't it?
Good point. It's perceptible when you find a conscious entity performing some action, but that is not perceiving consciousness directly. Yeah, you perceive consciousness indirectly.
Okay, and my second question was, body is the body which can not be dead, as a body which becomes also a living body, but matter is always like non-human matter or non-living matter. Is that right?
That's that's a point which we will come to maybe a little later, because we we come from a very different direction, so to say. Okay, so what was your first question? I wanted to clarify something more on the first question.
The first question was, how can the
perceptibility of consciousness.
matter,
Correct.
of
Perceptibility
consciousness.
of consciousness. Yeah. So you're right. You cannot perceive consciousness directly, but you see conscious entities around you. You see living people, you see living animals, you even see living plants. And so we use the term that these entities manifest consciousness, and in a sense they reflect consciousness, and so you perceive the consciousness through the manifestations from which it comes. So if you see me talking, you know that I'm conscious. Okay, so if I'm not conscious, I can't be talking, and you know that you are listening, so you are actually conscious. So the consciousness is not perceived directly, but you infer that something is conscious.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, right. And as regarding the question of whether what we call matter really has consciousness, we can reserve that question for a later day discussion. We will come to that. But it's a very good point. You made a very good point, but I don't want to jump the gun and talk about it now, because that can confuse, because I'm saying something out of the sequence. Okay.
Yes,
so
thanks.
right. So now we have some definition, some kind of an understanding, very vague maybe, of consciousness. So let us bring the consciousness closer to the body and try to understand how consciousness makes the matter come to life. Okay, so I see that we are very close to our finishing time. Mrinalini ji, should I stop at 9 o'clock, or can I maybe go another 5 minutes beyond?
Yeah, you can, sir, go 5 minutes beyond, no problem. Just because the matter is also sometimes not easy to understand. So I said 9 would be fine, but you have 5 minutes more.
Okay.
This is
Yeah,
not
I mean, I'm not going to take exactly 5 minutes, but I'll try to finish it as quickly as possible.
sure.
So what I want to stop at is that now we will try to understand how consciousness and matter interact. Okay, and so what I need to tell here is that we know that matter has these three gunas. You have sattva guna, rajo guna, and tamo guna. Okay, out of the three gunas, only the sattva guna part is capable of interacting with consciousness. It is only the sattva guna which is capable of interacting with consciousness and come to life. Okay, and once that sattva guna portion comes to life, then it is able to let's say donate or lend that consciousness to the rest of the matter. So the connecting point between matter and consciousness is the sattva guna. Okay, so, and as I said, okay, I talked about the sattva guna connection with the jnanendriyas, but I forgot to tell you that the mind, what we call manas, we talked about manas having four components: manas, buddhi, chittam, ahankaram. And the manas essentially is a product of the sattva guna of all the five elements. Yeah, just like the prana is a product of the rajo guna of all the five elements, the mind is a product of the sattva guna of all the five elements. The difference between this and the indriyas is that every indriya has the sattva guna of only that particular bhutam. So the ear has the sattva guna of the akasha alone. Then your skin has the sattva guna of the vayu alone. And similarly, the eyes have the sattva guna of Agni alone. And the tongue, tasting tongue, has the sattva guna of Jalam alone. And finally, the nose has the sattva guna of the Prithvi alone. But the manas has the blessings of the sattva guna of all the 5 elements. Okay. So when you have this and the sentence I talked 2 minutes before, that the consciousness interacts only with sattva guna, it must tell you that the connection between the body and the consciousness is through the mind. It is through the mind, because it is a mind within the individual which is completely made of the sattva guna of the 5 elements. So the consciousness first triggers the mind comes to life, and through the mind the consciousness flows to the prana and to the other indriyas and eventually to the sthula shariram. Okay. And so the consciousness in Vedanta has very many different words which we use to describe consciousness. Primarily we call it chaitanyam, or in some context we say chetana, but chetana is very rarely used. Yeah. And then we say jnanam, prajnanam, sometimes we say vijnanam. These are all synonymous in some context, not always. Yeah. So the challenge with Sanskrit is the same word used in one context will mean one thing, and the exact same word used in a different context will mean something different. Okay. So I'll stop here, and hopefully you can go through the contents of today's talk with either with your notes or with the recordings, and try to digest the whole thing, and we'll continue with this from the next class. Okay. So any questions or discussions we can have for a few minutes. Okay. Looks like nobody has questions. Is it because you are overwhelmed, or is it because you have understood everything? It can
Not
be both.
that we understood everything, but I think we need time to digest it.
Exactly. It's a bit heavy for us.
Okay. Right. So yeah, Shruti, you have a question.
Yeah, it's not a question per se, but just a small thought that since I'm working in Ayurveda domain, today I could actually connect so many things with the talk that you just delivered, because it is actually made my thinking a little bit more conscious, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So
Wonderful.
thank you so much for that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the feedback. Yeah, I have a general request. So it would help me a lot if I get some active feedback. Maybe I'm going too fast, maybe I'm going too slow, maybe the language I'm using is very complicated. I don't know. I'm just talking as the flow comes, and if there is something that I have to change or something that I have to simplify, I need to know in the form of a proper feedback. Otherwise, I'll just go along the way I'm doing now. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
The
Right.
topic is very heavy, but I think you're putting it in a very structured and a systematic way for us to understand, making it easy for us to understand.
Yeah.
And so thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thanks for your appreciation.
Would you be telling us what the buddhi, ahankara, and chitta is made of next time?
Yeah. We'll cover all that. Well, I won't actually tell you what it is made of, but we will discuss a lot about chitta, ahankara, and all that. There will be a lot of discussion, and I mean, you can also infer a lot of things from whatever information you gather. So I'm just laying a kind of a framework, so to say. Yeah. So I'll provide a framework in which we can discuss a few things, but we can't discuss everything under the sun. And of course, I'm ready to do that. If you want to extend this whole series to maybe 10, 12, 15 sessions, I'm very happy to do it. But somehow I had a feeling that you want to finish it off in 5 or 6 sessions. So I leave it to you. The more questions you people bring, the more topics we can cover in depth or in width or whatever. And I'm happy to be available for any discussion.
So one feedback I have, is it possible to provide already what is coming up in the next round? Like what will be the discussion about? So we are somewhere at least prepared for it. Like
Yeah, 1 minute. So
content-wise.
before I go there, I saw one more. Yeah, Yashaswini raised a hand. So you have a question?
Yes, actually, it's related to what Deepa just asked. Not necessarily about the next session, but I think it, at least for me, it would help if you could give us some references, not in like what we could maybe read in the meantime. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of books or other articles or anything on the internet that's available, but I don't want to go searching and read something that's maybe not useful. So is there something you can suggest?
Okay. Actually, I have a PDF from my guru, which will kind of summarize all the things that I'm going to be talking eventually. I can share that PDF if you people are interested. It's
That
about
will be
107 pages. Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah.
That is, yes, that will be great.
Sorry?
Yeah. Yes.
That'd be good.
Yes, we would welcome it.
Okay. So, but I won't promise you that I will go in exactly the same series or sequence that
That's-
my Guruji is gone.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah. So I have to check that. I have it somewhere. I'll have to search for it. But I'll share it with Mrinalini ji, and she can probably share it with you.
That's right.
And yeah, so I can do that. I have a 107-page summary. It's a more like Vedanta for beginners, so to say.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Vasudevanji.
Thank you, ma'am. So can we close the
Thank
call
you.
for today?
Yes, sure.
Right. Thank you. Namaste. And we'll
Thank you
just
very
do a
much.
short closing prayer
Hello.
before we actually formally close.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So
sure.
give me 1 second before you log off. Yeah. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate Sarvesham Swastir Sarvesham Shantir Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarvepi Sukhinas Santu Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. Thank you. Until next week. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mrinalini.